Emergency Medicine at the University of Pittsburgh, United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here and delighted to be part of the ESEM conference and for your welcome. So our discussion here is talking about the overview about EMD and how the system works, and we will give you some input about how the operation of emergency medical dispatcher in the region, starting from the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and then the region if possible. So I don't have anything to report, so it's clear. I don't have any interest. So our objective here is to talk about the system, how it's working currently, and then how it's supposed to be in the future. And then we would like to introduce the demographic challenges that we have it in the North Emirates. Also, we would like to represent some structural ideas for the integration of the EMS dispatchers along with the public health and safety. Also, we would like to introduce what's the meaning of the EMT education. There is a lot of misconception or differential, information or terms. Who's handling the dispatcher system? Some people they ask them to say that they are just call takers and or they are EMTs. So we'll go through this one a little bit. So in other things, we would like to introduce also that there is a few researches happening in the Middle East, happening in Saudi Arabia, even in UAE, but it's not yet enough to address the needs of the EMDs. So, as you know, do we need a dispatcher? Do we need a 911? Do we need a 999 in the system? As we know, anyone facing an incident in the street or in the community or in a workplace, they need someone to take his call. Within an emergency, ready to answer this call within a short of time, also with giving a very specialized information. If he's a cardiac arrest, then he can address the cardiac arrest. Or if he's a trauma case, then he will guide them through the trauma case. So most of the response time happening within 5 to 10 minutes. That's the most data that we received until now. So do the dispatcher need to receive a call or just hang up the phone and then bye-bye? Some third world countries calling the emergency call, they said, okay, just hold in line, and they keep holding for 30 minutes. Or some emergencies call numbers, they tell them, okay, we will send you somewhere else. So there is no proper education or proper information how they are handling the emergency calls. But we understand now the system of dispatcher is a part of the whole system, need to be informed and addressed. So the study shows that there is a 2 minutes to call for help. From the time the incident happened, the public or the community when they calling for help, there is a 2 minutes here. So the time of processing around 90 seconds. The time call for call to process the whole information is 90 seconds. Now the check time it is a 2 minutes. Check time meaning here when the dispatcher delivers the information to the ambulance or the EMS personnel. At that time, this takes around 2 minutes to move, to start the vehicle moving to the scene. So the response time on the scene, as we know, is around 5 to 10 minutes. But what's the response time to the patient? Spending with the time with the patient around 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes maximum. So the total call goes around between 12 to 17 minutes. You see how the amount of that information. Now, in our experience with the North Emirates, there is a lot of population going on in the major cities and the small cities also, but at the same time, that's giving us a figure that how many calls we could receive in 1 year. From our studies, our national ambulance in Abu Dhabi, they did some studies in North Emirates about the number of calls, and the result was shocking. The numbers of calls was increasing year after year, starting from 2015. So in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Red Crescent Authority, they respond for around 400,000 calls in 1 year in the whole kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But in the States, of course, the population is more larger, so the number of calls was received around that number, 240 million numbers. Which means those numbers could be a normal call, could be calling for food, or could calling for emergency. So we don't know exactly those numbers, how it happened. So, but in national ambulance, our calls, it was, most of them is an emergency call. So it was addressed as 115,000 in a year, last year. This is the last year figures. So, which means we need to have a system. The dispatcher cannot work alone. We understand that this dispatcher is a part from the whole system, but the whole system doesn't work without other supportive systems, like public health, other municipalities, like the government itself, national call for emergency unified numbers, and personnel. So we need to have a system that addresses in the location of each population or each community to address that number as a quick response to the main dispatcher system. So which means patient system start from the phone rings. As soon as they call the number, then our system, in the emergency dispatcher system, they respond within a short time if they are educated or trained for it. Then the whole outcome of the dispatch, as we mentioned before, it takes around 2 minutes to 3 minutes, then it will be diminished to less than that time. So at the type of communication that used, we all know that there's a landline, there's a phone numbers, and there's a lot of intercom lines and cellular numbers. And there's also in the developed country, there's also the fiber optic cables, transmission or live video calls from the dispatcher system to the emergency time or emergency vehicle. So other dispatch use some kind of system. Our national ambulance dispatch, they are reporting. They have the same digital system reporting the time of the response, reporting the time the vehicle was moved from the scene. So all of this one was documented in the dispatcher system, which means it's as a backup reference for any research in the future, or references for the patients, or any reference in the training part. So most of our system here currently is recording from the time the call starts and the delivery in the facility, hospital facility or any other emergency location. So there is a lot of competencies for the EMS system communication here. One of them, we need to be addressing the communication system itself. Do we have a proper facility for the system? Do we have a very good equipment for the system to be active? Do we have enough resources in case of the backup or shutting down the system or not? So also, we found out there is a more component for the EMS dispatcher system is include cellular phones as a backup for the same radios. Most of our communication comes through the radios. What will happen in this case of disaster? From our experience or from the studies happening in the States, one time in case of disaster, the whole system was shut down and freeze because communication was in one direction. So do we have a backup in the case of disaster or not? So the dispatcher system starts from initiating the call, as I mentioned before, arriving to the scene, departing from the scene, arriving in the receiving facility, and returning back to the patient transfer area. So there will be more reporting coming. National Ambulance in the process to develop the current dispatcher system, and it will be more advanced system and more smarter in receiving calls and dispatching calls. At the same time, most of the national organizations, they address that the EMD is one part of the EMS system, so which means now shifting from a term called a call taker to the emergency medical dispatcher. So we are in the process in National Ambulance to develop our call takers to be an emergency medical dispatcher at different levels. So the training is required here for all dispatchers functioning in a medical dispatch agencies and require unprecedented cooperation between their diverse disciplines. So this is coming from the Association of the EMS Physician and a policy statement from Emergency Medical Dispatching System. So they are addressing that most of the call taker, they need to go through a proper education and update. So the emergency medical dispatcher, there is a two level of them. The level 1 is a 30 days course, and the second level is a qualified certification course, is a 2 days course. Of course, the EMD mentor course is given to the team leaders of the dispatchers. It's more dedicated for them. The topics, as you see, is more included how to control the call, how to be executing the call, how to be smarter in responding in different variety of public calls. We have been, from our experience, we receive a calls like, I have a bleeding. As soon as we respond to our dispatcher or our response, tell them go to the location, we found only they have small cut, it's not a bleeding. So the public, they need to have more information and the way how to address the call. Or our dispatcher, they need to be known how to extract the proper information to be addressed to our EMS personnel. So this class is teaching them. Now, there is an emerging communication between the technology. Recently, the technology is booming faster in different levels. And we found out now there is a new smartphone application that's more dedicated for altitude, which means if you receive a call in World Trade Center, how do you know it's in the first floor out from 24? How do you know that? Most of our iPhone or the cell phone, they have calibration that they have, you know exactly where is the altitude of the person. So the technology now targeting the dispatcher to locate where exactly the patient. And instead of coming to the tower, doesn't know where exactly he is. By using that technology, they will know exactly he's in the 30th floor or 20th floor in the same location. So there also, we had some experience in video call or telemedicine approach in Arizona. We have been developing a type of communication in a 40,000 feet altitude, how to communicate between the crew and the aircraft and the ground with the hospital. So this is one of the...
And BD91, we have received a pulse of 70 beats per minute. BD91, we have received a blood pressure reading of 161/91. If you could please go ahead and obtain a video image of this passenger. A video image.